mid-December. Here we are. How crazy. As we are really into the festive season now, I really wanted to talk about joy. If you follow me on Substack, you will have read my article all about joy already. And this is going to be a slightly deeper dive. If you haven't, I have been focusing a lot on joy this season. Maybe you have too. So I wanted to do a full podcast episode all about joy and what I believe are its transformative powers. Yes, I just said transformative powers. I would lock in, okay? It's going to be good. And we're going to talk about how each of the Enneagram types relate to joy, how each Enneagram type could engage with joy on perhaps that transformative, deep level that I just mentioned. And obviously joy is quite a seasonal emotion, right? We talk about joy a lot in winter. It's on cards, it's in songs. It is a very kind of seasonal, cultural, seasonal emotion that maybe doesn't get a whole ton of airtime the rest of the year. Is my experience. I wonder if yours would be the same or not. And I think that that's fairly interesting, especially as we're into kind of the final week of kind of the darkest nights, the longest nights of the year. We've got the solstice coming up on the 21st. And those two things almost feel paradoxical. It's almost ironic that we would talk about joy so much during what is often a very tough time of year with the lack of light and how cold it is. And that can often be really, really hard. Now, of course, if you're somewhere very sunny right now, perhaps that won't hit as hard. But if you're in the UK, if you're in kind of Northern Europe, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, you'll know that SAD is a real thing. Struggling with those long, cold nights are a real thing. And here we find ourselves singing about joy, buying cards and wrapping paper that have the word joy written all over them. And I think that's really, really weird and interesting. And I think we should talk about it. And I think what I'm talking about is also really amplified by silly season. You know, we've talked about that a lot over the past couple of weeks. Definitely go back and listen to the to episodes 14 and 15 if you haven't already. But we're in silly season. It's really festive. Maybe you've been to your work Christmas do. Maybe you've said yes to going for more Christmas drinks. Maybe you've just bought, 7 extra presents that you hadn't really budgeted for, but they've just bought you presents. So, okay, we need to do this. It's this kind of relentless pursuit of more at the moment. This kind of constant cheer that the holiday season can bring. And we are in the stillest part of the year from the point of view of nature. And we're kind of holding both of these things. Nature is really quiet right now, and society is quite loud. And how do we hold both really well? And I don't think we've got it inherently wrong. Whilst the land is so still and peaceful and quiet and dark, I think it's a beautiful idea to bring in more cheer and joy. But can we do that from a really grounded perspective? And can we honour, kind of both sides of the coin? And I also think, with the solstice, with the darkest, longest nights of the year, that, really is, that is really hopeful. The returning of the light. We're kind of halfway through. Yeah, that's a way to think of it. And so that moment also offers us joy. That's quite a joyful thing, to know that the light is coming back, to know that we're halfway through. So these were kind of musings I've been having over this season, I guess. And I've been really thinking about how joy is healing. Joy is a healing experience. Joy is a healing feeling. Joy is a healing emotion. And so I went away and I've done some research around joy as this healing experience, because I know that it's there, I just don't have the science, but I found it. So joy, the feeling of joy, literally boosts our immune system. What? That's so cool. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system. Delightful. And what that means is it reduces inflammation. So many illnesses and diseases come from inflammation. So many. Look it up if you don't know. And it also improves immune responses. So your immune system functions better when you have regular joy in your life. How amazing. And a study published in Psychological Science showed that if you have regular access to positive emotions, including joy, means that you will have a better resistance to a wide range of illnesses. That's amazing. We know that joy literally reduces or counteracts the stress hormone, cortisol. You might have heard about cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone. It's the hormone that is released when we feel really stressed, when we feel really worried, when we feel really anxious. So joy is a really natural way to alleviate cortisol. The American Journal of Cardiology found that if you experience joy, it lowers your risk of heart disease. Guys, it's so cool. So when we're talking about things like self-care and moving away from overwhelm and into overflow and experiencing joy, it's not just like this fun thing that we talk about. It is absolutely pivotal for your well-being to be experiencing these things, to move away from living in constant stress. It's so pivotal. I could go on. I'll go on a bit further for those of you that need a little bit more convincing. So psychologist Barbara Fredrickson believes that joy helps us think more broadly. It builds resilience within us and helps us to bounce back quicker from challenges. I would love to bounce back quickly from challenges. How? Fantastic. I'm going to run after joy. And then finally, the nun study in 2001, which studied literally nuns, showed that if you live a joyful life, you live for longer. You live for longer and you live better. So I think joy is this really powerful thing, and we are surrounded by the invitation for it at the moment. Whether we're singing about it, whether we're wrapping up Christmas presents with it, there is an invitation, and I think we should answer. Also, just like I'm just dropping this in here. If you're a type 5 or a type 6, or if you just in general struggle to trust and believe, I've got like pages and pages of research that I didn't just want to sit and read out because that perhaps is not the most interesting podcast. But if you would like more kind of proof, if you want more scientific information, just let me know and I will send you what I found. I think it would make the podcast like an extra hour long. I'm a type 1. I'm very thorough and detailed. But if you need a little bit more proof, just let me know because I have tons of it, okay? Or Google it yourself, do your own research. You might find it really, really interesting. I also want to pause here as well and just touch on toxic positivity, okay? Because I think there's a huge difference and there is a possibility that we could sway into ending up in toxic positivity rather than using joy to ground ourselves without bypassing any of the harder or more negative emotions. And so I'm not asking you to just be happy no matter what happens over the next few weeks or whatever's happened this year in your life. And if you've had some really hard stuff happen this year, just push it down and ignore it and let's just be joyful. That's the complete opposite to what I'm trying to say. So I just wanted to make sure that we are grounded in the knowledge that we can use joy and access joy without bypassing, the full range of emotions as well. So joy isn't about ignoring pain. It's about holding space for light along with the dark. Can you tell I've been watching Harry Potter once a week as a countdown to Christmas? What's that quote from Dumbledore? I'll find it. And I'll pop it in the show notes if I can find it. So I wanted to talk about how this relates to us then as each Enneagram type. Last week, we broke the Enneagram types down into stances. One of my favorite things to do. Today, we're going to break the Enneagram groups down again into groups that I reckon you won't have heard about. You might have, I'd be surprised. So we've got Center of Intelligence group in the Enneagram, which looks at our center of intelligence. Are you thinking dominant? Are you feeling dominant? Or are you doing dominant? And then we have the stances, which is what we talked about last week. And this is how we orient ourselves to other people. So are you in the aggressive stance? Do you lead? Are you in the withdrawing stance? Do you isolate? Or are you in the dependent stance? Do you help? There is a lot more nuance to that than what I've just said. Go back an episode and listen to it. It's really, really helpful stuff. Today, I wanted to talk about the object relations groups. What is that? So object relations within the Enneagram is looking at how our personality developed within the context of our childhood environment. And so we have 3 groups. So they are frustration, attachment, and rejection. Let me share a little bit about each of the groups. So first up, we have the frustration types. These are 1, 4, and 7. We could call these the idealistic types because these types are always striving for their ideals. They can feel restless or dissatisfied if life is not meeting their set of ideals. And you might be thinking, wow, 1, 4, and 7, how do those guys really fit together? You know, they're in all different stances and they're in all different centers of intelligence, but they are kind of connected through this desire for life to be as idealistic as possible. And so this feeling of being dissatisfied or being restless is a huge hindrance to experiencing the wonder of joy. And so for this group, it really is about celebrating what is instead of chasing after what it could be. And so things like gratitude, daily gratitude, are a really, really helpful way for this group to get out of their ideals and get grounded back in to the joyful reality that they have around them. Gratitude is not hard, it's not difficult. It doesn't take very long, and it can completely transform your day, your morning, your evening, your afternoon. You could do it at literally any time. Let's do some right now. I am so grateful that the sun is shining today. I can't tell you how much of a difference it makes. The sky is blue. It's gorgeous. That's not hard. All it is about being present. It's not hard. It's just about getting really, really present and grounding back into your body, your senses, your experience. Then we have the rejection types. Okay, so these are types 2, 5, and 8. So these types focus on helping others or focus on independence, but can struggle to accept joy for themselves. They could do it for other people, find it really difficult to do for themselves. And so this is going to really come back to allowing yourself to receive the joy, types 2, 5, and 8, without having to find a way to earn it, without needing to find a way to earn it. How can you just receive the joy? How can you just receive the laughter? How can you receive the silliness? What does that look like? And so I think scheduling in some joy without kind of a reason for it, without any justification, booking a massage, not because you're on death's door and you've dislocated your shoulder and it's so painful, booking a massage because you would like a massage and that would feel joyful. So it's about allowing yourself to receive that joy. And that looks a little bit like, and that is going to include some mental work, some emotional work, and then some practical work, as the Enneagram always does. Schedule it in, you guys. You can do it. If there's any time too, it's now. And then finally, we have the attachment types. So these are types 3, 6, and 9. And so these types are always seeking connection to other people. And these types, and that connection could be in a loving friendship. That connection could be via a work promotion. There are lots of different ways that could look, but it's always about connecting out to other people in order to feel attached to something else, something bigger than themselves. And so these types can really lose themselves in the needs of others or other demands of the moment. Yeah, that's going to happen really easily this week and next. And so this is about reconnecting, finding the spark that lights up your internal world. So what do you love to do? What do you wish you could do? How could you spend that hour on Tuesday evening when you've got some time to yourself? What would your inner child like to do the most? And how can it not be about what anybody else in the room would like to do? How could it be about what you would like to do? Does that make sense? And I think when we begin to understand how we are wired to seek out or resist joy, we can begin to make space for it in a way that feels really grounding and feels really true. So I kind of touched on it earlier in the episode. And I really think the solstice kind of invites us into this moment, right? I love a ritual. If you've known me for 10 minutes, you'll know that about me. And I think it connects us to what is going on in the world around us, which I think is so important. The more kind of online we become, I'm worried that the more we will lose contact with what's going on physically around us on this earth, on this planet, in nature. And so a lot of my work is kind of built to connect us back to that. And so I think noticing what's going on, in the sky or seasonally can be really helpful at grounding us in our human bodies. But back to the solstice, it is this turning point in our year where we move from we have the darkest night of the year, and then the light begins to return little by little each day. And so for me, there's a symbolization of hope there. There's a symbolization of joy. And I think there could be a lovely invitation for us to respond to over the next couple of days as the solstice is coming up this week. And I think even as a metaphor, we see the world, we see the earth move through seasons, each month, each quarter. And just like the light returns after the longest, darkest night, so can joy return to us. And if you have had a really tough year, if you're having a tough time right now, if you are, stretched too thin, if you are feeling the weight of it, there is a reminder that joy can find you even in this place. And I want to offer that to you today. Whatever Enneagram type you are, however you find it easiest to engage with joy, please do that this week. And I think it's not about a performance. It's not about putting on a show. It's not about trying to find some joy and faking it. I think faking it until you make it is not the right tact with joy. I do think it's a gift that we choose to receive. We can choose to call that friend who makes us laugh. We can choose to read that book that always feels delightful to read year after year. We can choose to put on our favourite Christmas film. We can choose to bake something. We have these choices. How can we choose joy today whilst honouring what might have been quite a difficult season, what might be quite a difficult time of year? So just on that, I just wanted to share the ways that I am going to engage with this opportunity of the solstice. And all I mean by that is I'm going to choose to engage with joy this week in a really practical way. And that is going to look like lighting candles. Guys, this candle, oh my gosh. My mum bought me this candle. It's our favourite Christmas candle. I cannot wait to light it. I'm going to light it this week. I can't tell you how good it smells. I am going to put some music on and dance around because it feels good to move our bodies, but it's too cold to go for a run and I don't have a gym membership at the moment. If you saw on my YouTube a few weeks ago, I made some orange garlands. I'm going to make some more this week because why not? They bring me so much joy each morning. And I'm going to drink festive novelty coffee because even though I'd like to be a coffee snob, sometimes there just isn't anything better than a gingerbread latte. Joyful. And so you can hear, it doesn't need to look like some grand celebration, okay? It can be as simple as savouring your favourite tea and taking a moment to get present with that. But there is an invitation, depending on which of the groups you're in, to go a little bit deeper. As we come into close for today's session, if you do something joyful this week, please leave me a comment and tell me about it. I would love to know. And I also think that would be very joyful for me and other people to read. If you have someone in your life that you know is struggling, maybe send them this podcast. If you know someone is struggling in your life, maybe send them this episode to listen to. But just before we go, I just wanted to talk about my seasonal reset class. Every season I hold an online meditation and journaling class, and the winter class is coming up and I wanted to personally invite you. The winter class is called A Winter's Guide to New Beginnings. It's on the 13th of January. It's a 90-minute class where we are using stillness as strategy, where we are being inspired by nature, where we are going to pause in order to dream, in order to begin. It's a really gentle way to welcome in 2025 without dysregulating your nervous system of screaming, "New year, new me," and, cutting out all yummy food ever. The early bird ticket price is out now. That is available until the 5th of January, I believe. The early bird price is £30. I would love you to grab yourself a ticket, to know that joyful connection is coming. In the autumnal class, we had such a gorgeous group of really incredible women who showed up in just such a beautiful way. It was honestly so profound. I literally cannot wait for the next class. So if you want to get that booked in, make use of the early bird price before it disappears. I would love for you to get it on the early bird price. I hope you've enjoyed today's session. I hope that this next week, amongst the darkness, you find joy. And I look forward to seeing you on Christmas week. I'll see you on Monday at 9 a.m.